Welcome back to another edition of the Forts Athletics Life and Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Charles Inferno. We're at Forts Athletics. We equip coaches and athletes with the tools they seek out in order to achieve their unique and specific goals. And one way we are going to be able to do that this summer is by taking a tour across Western New York, the Northeast, and talk about coach-athlete relationships. And it's something that I've done in the past here and there, speaking at some colleges or high schools. But I'm really excited that this summer, June especially, starting to book up kind of fast with coaches and gyms and training facilities reaching out to have me come speak to their coaches about coach-athlete relationships and how that dyad works, and strategies, tips, and suggestions to help boost coach-athlete relationships or help athletes better perceive a stronger coach-athlete relationship with their coaches. How coaches can better establish healthy relationships with the athletes that they are in charge of at the specific facility. And it's really cool. I wish sometimes that I would have dug in and really attacked my dissertation with that topic. But since writing one research paper on the topic with Olympic coaches and throwers and coach-athlete relationships, working on another project right now that I really can't get into too much details about because we're still interviewing athletes and coaches and things, so I'm really excited about that. But it's really interesting over the 2 decades or so research that's really examined this facet of coach-athlete relationships, is that whether we're looking at qualitative research, where we're interviewing coaches and athletes, or quantitative, where we're collecting a lot of data, demographic information, things like that, that we are finding in the field that how an athlete perceives their relationship with their coach is either going to positively or negatively affect their performances. And that's with traditional team sports, American football, soccer, baseball, basketball, hockey, and maybe your more non-traditional team sports where we're looking at golf, tennis, swimming and diving, like wrestling, track and field, things where we're not necessarily always dependent on somebody else to make like an impact on our own performance. So like track, for example, once your name is called to go into the circle, teammates really aren't going to be there to help you out too much. But like in soccer, if you have a strong defense, and the defense obviously helps the team look better, but could also help the goalie look better also. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it and whatnot. But the real cool thing about the message and what I share is that the skills to enhance coach-athlete relationships can be learned, just like any other skill. If you're teaching somebody how to shoot a basketball or dribble or throw a ball, throw a shot put, whatever it may be, you can teach people these skills. And there is not so much like a curriculum that I've developed, but a framework more so of different activities and strategies that can be incorporated. And Sophia Jowett is really the researcher that has spearheaded a lot of this examination and topic. She created a model, three C's plus one, of closeness, communication, co-orientation, and complementarity, where when you examine those 4 facets of the coach-athlete relationship individually, it kind of gives you a better picture of what exactly is happening in that dyad. So the strategies for like closeness, co-orientation, communication, complementarity are really different things that coaches can incorporate in their day-to-day when they work with their specific athletes. So it might be working with athletes in like a private gym, like a private facility. It might be working with athletes, let's say, in the track or soccer, or like whatever, basketball. But sometimes we might think of some of the strategies. For example, greeting your athletes when they arrive at practice by their first name and making eye contact. Now, something like that, we might feel like we take things for granted, right? Like greeting our athletes when they arrive at practice. But think about the tone that sets for not only the coach, and not only the athlete, but for the culture of the team, right? If the coach is greeting every single athlete as they're coming in, as they're warming up, or while they're warming up, they have 10, 15 seconds a side conversation with everybody before they really get into what they have to do. How that's such a positive culture, that the coach is taking time to talk to everybody, kind of taking the temperature of the room, if you will, of just figuring out where the mindset is of their athletes as they're coming into practice that specific day. And a lot of those strategies, tips, I take more from early education research as far as ways to engage students when you're working with them in the classroom, because the terms are pretty similar. I don't want to say interchangeable, but if you have teacher-student relationship, it's pretty similar to a coach-athlete relationship. So there's a lot that's been written in early childhood ed about engaging students and how to establish relationships in healthy classroom environment. At practice, the circle, that area is my classroom. Just like any other coach might suggest that it's their classroom also. It's where our athletes come to learn how to hone in their technique and throw farther, ultimately, right? It's the ultimate end goal eventually when we're looking at things, because we want our athletes to throw farther than they did the week before or the season before or the year before, whatever. So you can do that, and that classroom environment, I don't know, I think it adds to the relationship development, right? Most of us as throwing coaches, we don't have 25 or 30 athletes that we're working with. More often than not, maybe 10, 15 athletes where you can really get to know people. You really get to know what's going on with your athletes, how things are going when they arrive to practice, and just trying to elicit feedback about their lives. How's everything going? How was class today? How was your lab? How was your exam? How was this? How was that? Taking a sincere interest in your athletes is going to go a long way. And much like young kids or young children, when I was teaching, they can see through kind of the fluffiness, right? So kids kind of know, much like our athletes, even though they're not kids, kind of know when we're trying to pull one over them, if you will, or try and, I don't know, not sound as genuine. They're able to read through that, and that's not really going to help establish good coach-athlete relationship dynamics. So those are some of the ideas. There's a couple strategies right there that I talk about, and it's really cool. Just going and meeting other coaches and going into different gyms and just learning about culture. I learn just as much as hopefully everybody else does when I'm there for that hour and a half, 2 hours. I try and figure out what's going well in one gym. What are some takeaways for me? This looks really good, or this activity, or how to break up this throwing group, or how to set up a certain routine in the weight room, whatever it is. I think it's a learning experience there also. It's just kind of cool. I enjoy talking to other coaches and individuals, especially athletes, just kind of learn a little bit more about what's going on in other parts of the region and the states, because not all things are the same. Sometimes the messages might be similar, but how they're received is going to be perceived differently. So it's kind of like an overview of what the summer is hopefully going to look like. Like I said, June, we had 6 sessions lined up already, so I'm really excited about that. July and August are kind of filling up too, and I say the summer because a lot of our athletes, especially at the college level, right, they're done for the year. So our athletes, after conference this weekend, for those who don't qualify for regionals, they have finals this upcoming week, and they're going to go home, and they're not going to come back to campus until like the end of August, really. So it's a nice way to work with coaches and help them try and stay engaged with their athletes over the course, of the summer, and setting up Zooms or conference calls, and just still trying to take a temperature of what's happening in their lives while they're not, right there on campus. And for our high school friends who are going to graduate or school's going to let out here in a few weeks, same thing. Summer's a great time for coaches to kind of sit back and examine and think about, what went well, what didn't go well, and what they might be able to do more efficiently. I don't want to say better. So I think, deep down we all mean well. We all try and do our best with how we engage and work with our athletes. But summertime is really a good time to just kind of think about how things went over the course of the season. I ask my athletes after the season is over to answer 4 really short questions. Not necessarily respond back to me, but respond to our head coach and send that information to Tim. And then Tim and I can have a conversation about what the athletes thought went well, what didn't go well, what they liked, what they didn't like, and what I could do better in the future or next season when we work together. And I think that's a huge component of coach-athlete relationships, is having that trust in your athletes and a mutual respect that they'll feel comfortable answering questions like that. When I was at Fredonia and Naz, it was more of like a sit-down one-on-one, and I realized that didn't always go as well, because sometimes athletes feel uncomfortable saying that they didn't like something that you did, or how you structured practice, or how a certain situation happened over the course of the season. Those other little fires that might come up, we handled when they came up. For someone like, do I talk too much to athletes at meets? Do I not talk enough? Is it to relax of a situation? I've had other coaches tell me I'm kind of too laissez-faire or laid back at meets, and it's like, okay, that's what works for my athletes, might not work for other athletes, where you have to have a different coaching style. But anyway, our coaching styles are fluid and dynamic, and we try and meet the needs of all of our athletes when we're there. But so that's it's a lot of stuff all in one big video here. But so if you're interested in having me come out and talk to your coaches, or even talk to your athletes, not so much about coach-athlete relationships, but goal setting, focus, like mindset strategies, things of that nature, you can reach out social media at CoachAthlete across all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, CoachAthlete.com. Send an email, CoachAthlete@gmail.com. Let me know, if you want to have a conversation, at least an initial conversation, about what could be offered for your coaches and your athletes. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Forts Athletics Life and Coaching Podcast about coach-athlete relationships, coaching style, coaching strategies, professional development and professional learning for your coaches. My name is Dr. Charles Inferna. Have a great day.